choice. Rethink.
Your life, your choice.
Rethink.
Rethink.
Rethink. Your life, your choice.
Rethink. Your life.
Rethink.
Your choice. Rethink.
Rethink.
Your life, your choice.
Rethink.
Rethink.
Your life,
Your choice.
Rethink. Rethink. Rethink.
Your life, your choice. Winnebago's Healthy Living Partnership.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Rethink, Your Life, Your Choice. We bring community leaders, advocates, and Winnebago County residents like you together to find solutions to some of the most important public health and prevention issues that we are faced with every day. I'm your host, Heidi Keating. Thanks for joining us. We are excited to transform Winnebago County by implementing solutions that make a difference in our community's health, where our residents live, work, learn, pray, and play. Our first guest is Kevin Wilkinson. He's the Chief of Police in Neenah, Wisconsin, and a member of reTHINK's Substance Abuse Prevention Committee. Thanks for joining me today, Kevin.
Thank you.
Can you share a little bit about yourself? How long have you been with the Neenah Police Department?
Well, I have been at the Neenah Police Department for a bit over 4 years, working on my 5th year there. I'm working on my 30th year in law enforcement, which includes some time in 2 different states and at 5 different police departments.
Wow. From your perspective in law enforcement, how does alcohol affect our community?
Well, I suppose I'll get a little bit long-winded on that answer. Certainly we could look at the answer to that question in financial terms, and of course there's been a recent study that tried to quantify exactly what those kinds of costs are. I mean, there are costs for medical care, there are costs for uninsured motorists, there are costs for lost time for work, all of those kinds of things. And I think those are legitimate things to talk about. It does, alcohol misuse does cost us a lot in the county, statewide, and around the globe, really. But I think there are some things that are harder to measure that I would like to just take a little bit of time to dwell on. I remember a motorcycle accident that we had when I was working at another agency where a young father was killed driving drunk. And you could quantify how much the medical bills were, how much was lost in lost wages and of those kinds of things. But think about the things that are really hard to quantify. I mean, what was the impact on that family? Mm-hmm. And the 2 young children who are now, I think, probably in young adulthood. And what is the cost, or what is the impact of those children growing up without their dad that they loved? What is the impact of that little girl now not having her dad to walk her down the aisle at her wedding? Those things are really significant, and those don't make it into any kind of a number crunching analysis. Mm-hmm. And yet they're significant impacts on the community. Back in 2001, a young man named Jason Mulroy was convicted and sent to prison for drunk driving and for an accident in which he significantly injured 2 little girls who were aged 2 and 4, Brittany and Samantha Manos from Hortonville. And I've kind of followed that story through the years, and I had contact with the girl's father a couple of years ago and just got some updates from him. And those girls are now, I think, 14 and 16. Mm-hmm. And the older girl is in a wheelchair for the rest of her life. She has a metal rod to keep her spine straight. Mm-hmm. She had a 3-hour seizure after the accident. They had to disconnect the left side of her brain.
Oh my goodness.
She's on medications. She can't talk. She can nod her head or raise one hand, and that's how she communicates. And her younger sister has continuous seizures, frequent seizures. She's also in a wheelchair, and they have to administer the seizure medication to her anally. And both of these children will be like this probably their entire lives. Right. Now, the man who committed the offense, Jason Mulroy, will be out from prison and will get his new lease on life to start over and hopefully learn from his mistakes within about 3 years. Mm-hmm. But for these girls, that sentence will not end. And how do you quantify that?
Right, it's devastating. That's such a good point. I mean, we can break it down by cost, and Winnebago County, I think we're up to $214 $0.8 million.
Hey, think about that number for a minute. Over $200 million for a county.
Yeah.
I mean, if we were using that on a program or anything, there would be tremendous outcry. But this happens over and over, really just from lifestyle choices.
Yeah. Yeah. So clearly we have a statewide problem and a local problem. What are some of the ways the local community is addressing excessive alcohol consumption?
Well, I think we've seen some preventive efforts. There's certainly been a lot of education effort. Since my time at Neenah, I know that in Winnebago County there has been some efforts to change some legislation, both at the state level and at the local level. But for example, locally, the sober server ordinances have been talked about. As a matter of fact, tonight we are in Neenah discussing that at the committee level in hopes of having a proposal for full council to vote on soon. And the social host ordinances that have been supported. Some of those kinds of things, there have been different efforts, and through the schools there are efforts, education efforts. So there's a lot of different things going on. reTHINK really, I think, has come in and been a significant role player in sort of bringing those groups together and trying to create some, I don't know if unity is the right word, but some cohesiveness in the effort so that it's not just individual communities acting alone.
Right, and it's important for the community to address alcohol prevention and not just individuals and families. And in order to have a successful program, we need
all levels.
All levels.
All levels,
yes.
absolutely.
Yeah. So you're part of the Substance Abuse Prevention Committee.
Yes, I am.
And we worked on a 012 campaign. Can you explain a little bit about that and what that means? Sure,
happy to. It's a very simple campaign. It's designed to be catchy, simple, and yet have a really strong message. So it's 012, 012, 012. Hear those numbers over and over, 012. What do they stand for? It's really a message about moderation and control. So the 0 is to recognize that there are times when that's the right number of drinks. 0 drinks. If you're the designated driver, 0 drinks. If you're perhaps on probation, or you're going to be going to work, or you're the person who's perhaps in charge of a group of young people, you know, a scout leader, those are the wrong times to drink, obviously. So understand there are times that 0 is the proper limit, and what we say on the campaign is that if you're the designated driver, it's 0. But there's certainly some other times that it's 0 as well. And then the next number is 1. And the campaign really pushes that you try to limit your drinks to 1 drink an hour, so that we're not getting into the binge kind of drinking. You know, in Wisconsin, we lead the
nation.
or you could say we're last in the country, however you want to look at that, in binge drinking. And so it talks about moderation, about control, only one drink an hour. And then the 2, underneath there, it'll say know your limit. You know, and for many people, 2 is the limit. You know, at one sitting, 2 drinks is really your limit. But more importantly, know what your limit is. Know your own body composition. You know, there are things that you do, the things that you eat, what other drinks you have at the same time. Those things all are going to affect your sobriety level. And so it really tries to focus people on knowing what their personal limits are.
Do you think our community is receptive to the idea of moderation because we have a culture that we're just very strong in binge drinking? And
yeah, I would say that's split. I think there are components of our community that that message is lost on. I think that there are components of our community that understand and appreciate that message and agree with it. So it's mixed, but it's still worth pushing the message, I think. It's part of an education effort. If people understand the problems, if they understand the issues fully and thoroughly, and what they can personally do about them, I think that moves us in the right direction towards some correction.
I like the idea too that you have to learn how to do this. If you're going to be if you're going to drink, that it's important to know how to drink responsibly, and that it's a responsibility that that you can stop. That you can say, I'm going to have 1 drink tonight, and I'm going to stop.
Right.
How about changes in the younger generation about alcohol? Have you seen any
Yeah, personally, in my job, I'm kind of removed from the street, so I don't have the first-hand knowledge of seeing things that are going on. I certainly am still reading reports about, underage drinkers and things that I've been reading about for decades now. Statistics, the last statistics I saw from one of the school studies suggested that the teenagers were drinking less than their older brothers and sisters had. Now, whether that's a blip in the data or if that's going to continue to be a trend, I don't know. I'm hopeful that younger people are starting to get the message that the rest of us older folks have been too dense to really get, and that maybe it's sinking in with them. But I think a lot of that still remains to be seen.
Yeah, and I think some parents are aware of the research that they're doing with teenage brain development and alcohol, how it affects teenagers and higher risk for addiction. So I think some, kudos to the parents that are really putting the message that it's not okay to drink when you're underage. What about, do you think young adults are drinking and driving less than maybe their parents?
Boy, I want to think so. I want to hope so, but I really don't have any data to support that. If it's true that the teenage population is starting to drink less than their older siblings did, then it would hopefully continue on into their young adult years, and that they would drive drunk at a lesser rate than those people before them did. But again, that's something we'll have to wait and see.
Well, we are just about out of time for our segment.
That's because I talk too much.
No, thank you so much for coming in today and discussing alcohol usage in the area. Thank you for being so dedicated to the health and safety of our community. Now we're going to watch a short piece from Mary Duff, our summer intern at the Winnebago County Health Department, doing health education at Rock USA.